year is 2002. Humanity has survived the Y2K crisis and has fully embraced the digital age. The internet has shrugged off its niche status and is rapidly becoming a mainstream phenomenon. Dial-up modems are still the norm, but the promise of broadband is on the horizon. Online communities are blooming. People are connected across geographical boundaries, sharing interests, forming friendships, and building virtual worlds. The lessons learned from the Y2K scare, the importance of robust systems, the need for collaboration, and the sheer power of technology, propelled humanity into a new era. The world was online, and there was no turning back. The early 2000s saw a surge in the popularity of massively multiplayer online role-playing games, or MMORPGs. Games like EverQuest and World of Warcraft were attracting millions of players, and Atlus decided to capitalize on this growing trend in the West by bringing the Shin Megami Tensei experience to a wider audience. It chose Xbox as its new home for this online venture, perhaps an attempt to appeal to Western audiences. A key element of the Shin Megami Tensei series is the ability to collect, negotiate with, and fuse demons. An online game provided a natural extension of this mechanic, allowing players to trade, battle with, and show off their demon collections to others. The social aspect of an MMO could enhance the demon collecting experience and create new gameplay possibilities for the player. The stage was set. An immersive Shin Megami Tensei experience set in a virtual cyberspace reconstruction of 1990s Tokyo, where players shared a persistent game world in an MMO setting. Gorgeous pre-rendered backgrounds and one of Atlus's most accomplished soundtracks to date, this new online title in the Shin Megami Tensei universe was set to be Atlus's most ambitious yet. However, by the time of the game's release, the online component was scrapped. There were no plans for a Western release. Shin Megami Tensei 9 went on to become one of Atlus's biggest commercial failures, and fell into complete obscurity. So what went wrong? With the MMO boom of the early 2000s, Atlus wanted to capitalize on this growing trend by creating their own online Shin Megami Tensei game. The core themes of Shin Megami Tensei often explore isolation and individual choices in a world on the brink of destruction. An online game offered the opportunity to depict a persistent world where players could interact with each other, forming factions and alliances within the established SMT lore. This allowed for a different kind of storytelling and world building, focusing on player-driven narratives and emergent gameplay. The 9 in the game's title is not in reference to the numbered title in the series, but rather the 9 different alignments you can choose and influence during your playthrough of the game. While most Shin Megami Tensei games allow you to walk a path of lore, neutrality, or chaos, SMT 9 split these alignments into a wider selection of 9 morality options. Being able to team up with different players with the same alignment as you was an exciting premise, and would serve as the central conflict of the game, not too dissimilar to World of Warcraft's Alliance and Horde factions. In an interview with Famitsu Weekly, Koichi Okada, Atlus's CDO and producer of the Shin Megami Tensei series, explained that bosses won't simply be aligned to chaos. Players will have to find others of similar alignment and band together with them. Atlus likely envisioned an online environment where players could truly inhabit this world, interacting with each other, forming factions based on alignment, and shaping the world through their actions. This would create a dynamic and evolving narrative that went beyond the traditional single-player experience. Okada stated that while the story is usually the most important aspect of a game's creation, what with the new possibilities of online play, players will be able to experience a story with real meaning to them. The early 2000s were a time of rapid advancement in online gaming technology, and Atlus saw 9 as an opportunity to push the boundaries of what was possible on consoles and explore new ways to connect players online. Another way Atlus wanted to explore new online game mechanics was through demon collection and fusion, core mechanics of Shin Megami Tensei. An online game could enhance these elements by trading rare demons with each other and creating a player-driven economy through auctions. Walking through the busy streets of Shinjuku with a rare demon by your side could have been an extremely compelling and motivational element to an online game, where rare loot and equipment could be seen as somewhat of an online social status, something that loses its impact in a single-player environment. Teaming up with other players to take on challenging bosses or dungeons within a cyberspace environment, or simply hanging out in various Tokyo neighborhoods with other players, would be a perfect implementation of the online component. The cyber aesthetic of the game would serve as the perfect backdrop for player connectivity. Okada's vision for the game setting would be a paradoxical landscape, where a 90s simulated Tokyo is presented in a virtual space, while the real world is expressed fully in monotone. The cyberspace setting provided a logical framework for online interactions. Players could jack into this virtual world and interact with each other in a shared space, exploring digital landscapes, navigating through data streams, and interacting with virtual entities, making the transition to an online format feel more natural within the SMT universe. The Shin Megami Tensei series often explores themes of technology, transhumanism, and the blurring lines between reality and virtuality. The cyberspace setting allowed Atlus to delve deeper into these themes, exploring the potential dangers and possibilities of a world increasingly reliant on digital technology. Even the battle system had mechanics that referred back to the cyberspace setting. AI routines for combat would be used, with battles being mostly automated. While Shin Megami Tensei 9 didn't fully realize its ambitions, the cyberspace setting was a key element that contributed to its pre-release appeal and its distinct identity within the SMT franchise. It also foreshadowed later Shin Megami Tensei games that would further explore themes of virtual reality and digital consciousness. The battle system would now feature RTS elements, where multiple parties could team up and take on expansive dungeons together in a single shared space, defeating powerful enemies across multiple fronts. The game's audio would be entirely mixed in Dolby Digital 5.1, something that Atlus had been passionately implementing in other titles at the time, such as Mach and X on the Dreamcast. Character creation would be featured as a series first, with players being able to express their individuality akin to other MMOs of the time. Atlus likely saw 9 as an opportunity to push the boundaries of what was possible on consoles, and explore new ways to connect players online, fostering a community of Shin Megami Tensei fans who would interact and play together for years. The hype surrounding such a conceptual title was felt in JRPG and SMT circles at the time, with RPGFan.com imagining the thought of being able to traverse the world of Megaten Online will undoubtedly make gamers salivate. Shin Megami Tensei 9 held the promise of a truly groundbreaking online experience that would redefine the SMT franchise. The anticipation was fueled by the potential for a persistent world, deeper demon interactions, new storytelling possibilities, and technological innovation. While the game ultimately failed to live up to these expectations, it's important to remember the excitement and potential that surrounded it before release. Despite all the promising features that were announced before the game's release, Shin Megami Tensei 9 ultimately fell flat in its ambitions. Many factors contributed to SMT 9's shortcomings, most notably its reliance on an online console infrastructure. While other popular MMOs at the time had a more established online scene on PC, consoles were still catching up. Xbox Live, while innovative, had a relatively new online service and wasn't as popular or widespread as it is today. Atlus would face server stability and bandwidth limitation issues, and would have to develop a stable yet complex networking code. Atlus faced a steep learning curve regarding server and community management, and planning ongoing updates for the game would require a tremendous amount of resources that would rely heavily on the game's commercial success. In essence, Atlus was trying to push the boundaries of what was possible with console online gaming at a time when the technology and their own experience were still developing. This led to the difficult decision to completely scrap SMT 9's online component, which would result in further challenges for Atlus going forward with development. Atlus were now faced with redesigning gameplay systems and adapt mechanics designed for online play to a single-player experience. The game also had to be rebalanced to adjust difficulty and progression to suit a solo playthrough. A lot of content would now presumably be cut, shrinking the resources and funding that Atlus may have already poured into development. This would lead Shin Megami Tensei 9 lacking a clear identity within the franchise. First-person dungeon crawling was out, while character creation was in, and a focus on rebuilding society after an apocalypse, along with other traditional SMT themes, didn't coalesce. This shift likely alienated players who were excited to experience these classic SMT themes through an online component. Another way in which Shin Megami Tensei 9 failed commercially was the limited appeal of the Xbox in Japan. While the Xbox was gaining traction in North America, it struggled to gain a foothold in the Japanese market, which was dominated by PlayStation and Nintendo consoles. This limited the potential audience for Shin Megami Tensei 9 from the outset. The timing of the game's release would also be to its detriment. Nine was released in Japan in December 2002, just a few months before Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne in February 2003. Nocturne was a mainline entry in the series with significantly improved graphics, gameplay, and a darker, more mature tone that resonated with fans. Shin Megami Tensei 9, with its more experimental gameplay and less polished presentation, was overshadowed by its successor. In summary, Shin Megami Tensei 9 suffered from a combination of development issues, poor timing, lack of a clear identity, and platform limitations. These factors contributed to its commercial failure and its relative obscurity within the SMT series. Shin Megami Tensei 9 may have had its shortcomings, but it wasn't without its merits. 9 featured innovative gameplay mechanics, such as a real-time command-based battle system, where players didn't directly control their characters' actions. Instead, players issued commands to their party members, who would then execute them based on their AI and the current situation. The system emphasized strategic planning and party management in a way that was more in-depth than your typical entry in the series. 9 also featured a unique hacking mode, where players engaged in real-time strategy simulations to progress through certain areas. This provided a refreshing change of pace from the traditional dungeon crawling found within the game. Demon fusing and negotiating was still an addictive and compelling aspect of the game, and 9 was the first title to fully realize these iconic Kazuma Kaneko demon designs in 3D graphics to great effect, with Okada being confident that the art team faithfully brought these demons to life in a way that previous games couldn't achieve. The 3D demon designs found within 9 would solidify the art style for various games going forward, including Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, Raidou Kuzunoha, and Digital Devil Saga. For the first time in the series, players could also customize the protagonist's name, gender, hair color, and skin color. This allowed for a more personalized experience and a stronger connection to the protagonist. The game's OST and sound design is also one of the game's biggest strengths. While it might not be as widely discussed as some other SMT soundtracks, it plays a crucial role in establishing the game's atmosphere and reflecting the unique locations you explore. By utilizing the Xbox's 5.1 surround sound capabilities, Atlus added a deep layer of immersion for the player, with game composer Takehiro Ogata picturing a pentagram with the player in the middle when creating music for the game. The sound team traveled to various neighborhoods of Tokyo that feature in the game, and recorded ambient field recordings that were then used for the corresponding area found within the game. SMT NINE's OST is a fantastic piece of music, from the techno breakbeat-inspired Akihabara to the lavish piano flutters of Roppongi, helps to immerse you in the environment and makes each place feel distinct. 9 is set in a digital recreation of 1990s Tokyo, and the music perfectly captures this blend of retro and futuristic. You'll hear a lot of synth-heavy tracks with a distinct electronic vibe. The RTS battle segments featured dynamic music with over 300 patterns depending on the actions of the player. Varying battle themes found within the game are also dependent on player alignment, from the cyberspace ambience of Battle D lore to the rock-heavy Battle L Chaos theme. Each battle theme adds a layer of unpredictability and excitement to encounters, making each fight feel unique. Overall, the music in Shin Megami Tensei 9 is a key part of its identity. It's not just background noise, it actively contributes to the game's atmosphere and helps to define its locations. Despite SMT 9's commercial failure, Atlus was determined to realize its MMO ambitions. The groundwork laid during Nine's development heavily influenced the creation of Shin Megami Tensei Imagine, an MMORPG set in the Shin Megami Tensei universe. Atlus took the core concepts and mechanics planned for Nine's online mode and used them as the foundation for SMT Imagine, including real-time combat, theme negotiation and fusion, and online interactions with other players. Imagine featured online interactions like trading, cooperative quests, and player versus player combat, building upon the social elements that were initially planned for Nine. In essence, Shin Megami Tensei Imagine can be seen as the realization of the online vision that was initially conceived for Shin Megami Tensei NINE. While Nine ultimately fell short of its online goals, its concepts and systems lived on in Imagine, bringing a unique online experience to Shin Megami Tensei fans, and one that is still being played today via private servers. Shin Megami Tensei NINE, despite its intriguing concepts like real-time combat, a 9 alignment system, and a cyberspace setting, ultimately fell short of its potential. Technical limitations, coupled with a somewhat clunky execution of its real-time battle system, and perhaps a lack of clear direction in its single-player narrative, prevented it from capturing the magic of previous SMT titles. It struggled to find its footing, caught between its ambition for online play and the constraints of its offline release. However, Nine wasn't a complete failure. Its innovative ideas served as a vital stepping stone. Many of the game's concepts were refined and expanded upon, ultimately finding their true expression, Shin Megami Tensei Imagine. In this way, Nine's legacy isn't one of failure, but rather one of a necessary stepping stone, a crucible where ambitious ideas were forged, paving the way for the unique online experience that Imagine eventually delivered to SMT fans. It stands as a testament to how even flawed projects can contribute valuable lessons and inspire future success.